how lucky am I that I got new lungs, even though the chemo killed my lungs? How lucky am I that I got new ones and now it's like nothing ever happened? Life could have been very different.
Who wants to launch a podcast? We have one. Would you like one? We do that now. The team here at Pintcast Media help people who've thought about launching a podcast to grow their brand, their clinic, or their business. We've actually turned those into actual podcasts that people listen to. If you'd like to launch your show today, why don't you drop me an email, jimmy@ptpintcast.com, and we can get you started. Our guest today defied the odds more times than you can count. A 3-time cancer survivor, a mom of 2, a lung transplant warrior, and somehow still found time to build a 7-location PTOT clinic empire right in the heart of New York City. You know what they say, if you can make it there, well, you know the cliche. Cynthia, your story is filled with resilience. 3-time lymphoma survivor, lung transplant survivor, business builder, athlete. There's got to be a common thread of this word that Angela Duckworth coined, or maybe just she started using it a lot, which was grit. Where do you think your grit comes from? Because I feel like without grit, you don't get through one of those things, right?
I think the common thread for me is people. I really love people. I never want to give up on the fun of developing relationships. So every challenge, whether it's opening a new office, overcoming some psychotic diagnosis, a fight with my husband, a fight with a best friend, I never give up, ever, 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 ever.
It sounds a little like Jimmy V. You familiar with Jim Valvano? You must be. You're a New Yorker.
No, I don't.
Jimmy Valvano? Oh, Jimmy V Foundation. He was the coach of NC State. He was a college basketball coach.
I do know. Yes.
And his whole line is "Don't give up. Don't ever give up."
Yes.
You know, he's got the line. I mean, his sort of speech, his sort of like last lecture, if you will. You know, not a dry eye in the house, and they replay it every year because now they do a whole week of the V Foundation on ESPN. And I'm going to screw up someone's going to correct me in the comments. I'm going to screw it up, but essentially he says if you laugh, if you cry, and you think, if you do at least if you do those three things at least once a day, that's a day. and Jimmy said, you know, his famous in saying, you know, cancer can take away my physical abilities, but it'll never take. And they just, I mean, literally, it was like a masterclass in just giving this speech that has resonated.
Well, that's actually accurate. No matter what, I've been writing a book and I'm like halfway through my story. And the one thread I see commonly woven through each page is my reaction to every single thing that happens to me. And it's always the same. Okay, I just got to get through this and I'll be fine tomorrow. Get through this, I'll figure it out. Like no matter what obstacle. The first time I opened a second office, it turned into disaster. I didn't set it up right. I didn't create a good partnership with the person I was doing it with, and it turned into a disaster. But 2 weeks later, I was like, now I'm going to open a second office, even better, way different, with a better structure. So every time I'm handed an obstacle, I just figure out the way easiest through it, or around it, or over it. But I don't know. I don't know what gave me that grit. I just love a challenge. I love coming to the other side. Like anything, did you ever climb a mountain or a hike up or climb a bike up a hill? You get to that apex. It's like, that feeling, that endorphin run, it's equal across everything. Finishing each cancer treatment, succeeding after 4 or 5 months of opening a new office and seeing it even out. The money in your bank account, you're in the black, not in the red anymore. Those feelings are the same. The success, the joy, I don't know, but it's definitely across every obstacle. You know,
do you think if someone's going to be, because we'll get to the specifics of what you've built, which is no small feat. Do you think grit and that attitude is mandatory, or is it nice to have or need to have if someone's going to open something? Because now there's no one above you and look at the blue sky, but like now there's no safety net. So do you think that sort of attitude is nice to have or need to have?
So interesting. You said the no safety net. So when I was 26, my father died very suddenly. And so my safety net, like a tablecloth off of a table, was pulled off. And you're definitely unbalanced, unmoored. And I'm not sure if I'm successful because of that or in spite of it, but it certainly shifted my mindset. I had no one to call and say, I need a little this, I need a little this. It was gone. And I had to like sink or swim. And and I did start my first practice at 29,
Wow.
which was a year after I finished chemo and was 2 years after my father died. He died on the week I was turning 27. So it was like 2 years later. And there was this sense of, this is it, Cynthia, sink or swim, get going. Like I started my first company with a platinum Amex card with $10,000. I bought one high-low table, one ultrasound machine, that mirror with the weights on the side and the hanging
Everybody has
strap.
one of those. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we actually just got rid of it 25 years later, 2 weeks ago. They were like, this is really gross. We don't like this thing. I'm like, okay, throw it out.
It's that mirror on wheels with the pegboards on the side, and then you can hang the ankle
Exactly.
weights and everything on it.
Yeah, it actually doubled as a door to my office, my first
There you
office,
go.
because
Wow.
the door was taking up too much space, and I had it was like a 15 by 12 in Manhattan, a small office within an office. And I just grinded, and it was so much fun. By the time I looked up, there was money in my checking account, and I couldn't believe it. I did it literally with no money from anybody. I just grinded, and then all of a sudden, I had a little business, and I took my own space next door, and I slowly grew. And about a year, like right after I took that new office, I hired a receptionist, and then I got diagnosed the second time, and I had to like decide how I was going to get treated. And that was one of the first pivotal moments of my life. I was 31, I was single, and I relapsed. And when you get relapsed with Hodgkin's, you have to do a stem cell transplant. But if you do a stem cell transplant at 31, it kicks you into menopause and you become infertile. And I
Wow.
knew I wanted a family. And so this was one of the first signs of grit I recognized in myself, because when the doctor told me you might never have kids, no, she said you'll never have your own kids. I didn't really like that. And so I pivoted to another doctor, and he's like, I think because you've been in remission 3 years, we can save you if we just do chemo and radiation and hold off on the transplant. We didn't try radiation with you. I think you'll be cured if we add this modality with RT, radiation therapy. And so I took a deep breath, and it was kind of a risk, but I was like, yeah, it'll be fine. We'll be fine. And I did that, and I had chemo on Fridays, so I treated patients Monday through Thursday, and Friday morning until 12. I went in for chemo at 1,
Wow.
and then I'd be back at work Monday morning. And the first 2 or 3 months you're okay, but then it definitely starts getting worse and worse. And I remember taking naps at work and like vomiting between patients, or GI distress was seriously a problem. And like there was one point, my receptionist, this might be TMI, but my office is on 57th and 7th, and there was a gap on the corner, and I had serious GI issues. I couldn't even believe it. You get like ulcers in your mouth and your GI system, your throat, so your whole GI tract has ulcers. So I couldn't really control much, but she needed to go get me new clothes because I had a patient coming, and I was like, oh my god, I soiled my clothes. And but you get right back in the game, and I got right back in the game, and I treated the patients. So you just like, I took every moment as it came. When there was a struggle, I overcome it, and then you just keep moving. And I had to shake it off. You kind of get like, there's this feeling of outer body control, but you have your mind and your grit, and you just say, just get through this, you'll be fine. Just get through this, you'll be fine. And that's always my mantra. And I did. I treated my patients. I got through the day, and each day was like a triumph. And then it was over, and I went back to work like hardcore, and I started doing 100-mile bike rides. And I actually did a 100-mile bike ride a week after that episode, a week after
Wow.
radiation. And I couldn't believe it. I did it. I was already part of the organization, and I was fundraising for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And because I was part of the organization, when I got diagnosed with a relapse, I was like, what am I going to drop out now? I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I'm not going to drop out. I'm fine. And I started training with the team. And it was so interesting because as a PT, you watch everybody's form, you watch everybody on the bike. And I didn't define myself as a cancer patient. I was a PT who was getting through this. And I was a 31-year-old single New Yorker living on the Upper East Side working every day. And this was just like a sort of bump in the road to me. But I took that opportunity and it helped my practice thrive because everybody doing a 100-mile bike ride and doing marathons and tries who were in that world with me needed PT. And they
Yeah,
all
yeah.
started coming to me and they all started coming to my practice. And the second I finished treatment and I finished that 100-mile bike ride, a week after that radiation treatment and chemo, I felt like a new woman. I was like, okay, bring it on. Now give me a challenge. And I wanted to do triathlons. And patients came, and I wasn't sure if patients were coming because of my energy or if I was a great healer, which I think I really am. I have great manual skills, but I give something more than just physical. I give a sense of hope. And I do think I have a gift of healing energy. You know, you come in and the patient's nervous system is all wired crazy, but you can put your hands on them and just calm them down. And I definitely grew that gift through my treatments, sensing what people needed, sensing what I needed. And as soon as I got back to treatment, I needed a full-time PT. And I hired this guy, Lou Ezrick, who is now like, we're joining forces a little bit, and it's extraordinary. And we're back in connection after 20 years. And we grew the practice crazy in 3 years. And poor Lou. Yeah, anyway, that's part of my story. And yeah, it's been a common thread to like have a challenge, overcome it, and keep going. And there's many forms of grit. It can come in work, it can come with family, it can come with personal physical challenges.
Sure.
Mine seem to have come in all different ways.
Are you still staying late just to finish your notes? Athelis Scribe uses ambient AI to auto-generate documentation, so your notes are done before you leave the room. You want to see how it works? Email me now at jimmy@ptpintcast.com. I'll give you a quick demo. Well, first of all, I didn't realize that we were team and training alums, so go team.
Oh yeah, what did you do?
I cheated, right? Because the idea with team and training, which everybody should do, in my opinion, if you want to do an endurance race, you
100%.
fundraise for team and training, right? For the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. It's a great cause. And it got you into some really great races. And then the training, they're not just like, hey, give us some money, we'll get you into a race. They train you. So I started cheating, because I ran a radio station. So in Northeast Pennsylvania, I'd go on the radio and be like, hey, everybody, I'm doing this race. Give me $5. And I'd be done with my fundraising in like a week, because I'd make a whole thing of it. You know what I mean? Like, hey,
Yeah,
we're doing
you
this.
got that personality. Yeah.
And that was fun. And then, as an athlete, I probably did 5 or 6 events. And then I
What
went
kind of
to,
events? Which ones?
the big one was Timberman,
Oh wow, that's a good one. Yeah.
which was a half Ironman in Lake Winnipesaukee, New Hampshire. And then
Oh
I
yeah.
think,
You know all the same.
I did, a couple Olympic tries in Northeast Pennsylvania or that area. Loved it. Then when I went to grad school, my advisor, and now, one of my closest friends, Sky Donovan, she was a coach, and she's like, I'm a coach in DC. It was like a hard team to get on. Right. And she's like, I'll get you in as a coach. And so we did we did not the try, but we did running in DC
For team and training?
for team and training.
That's so great.
So I got to be, I'm not only a participant, but I'm also, and that's the fun part is like, because now you cohort people
That's
who are
right.
like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm not a runner. Or then you got people who are super runners and you're like, we're a team. We're going to figure it out. And then you got to do the fundraising part together and the race. And there's always a bunch of tears. And it's a great thing to do, in my opinion.
I mean, truthfully, Jimmy, it really did help shape how I built my practice because I segued from Century to doing both. I would do a Century try. There was one year I did 7 events and I was so fierce in like the cycling, it made the tries so easy.
Oh, yeah.
So like if you're training for a 100-mile bike ride, then you backtrack and just do 25, you coast. And, but the cohort you build, I built different cohorts with each event. I was a slow runner, I was a good swimmer and a great biker. And I just would recruit different people. And it was extraordinary because much like having a business, there come challenges. Sometimes you coast, sometimes you climb, and sometimes you fly down.
Yeah.
And it's very much like a try, honestly.
Well, there you are. There's what you said. It's about people. So you're like, hey, I just built a bunch of different little cohorts, a bunch of different little groups, and this is how I get through those things. There was also something I noticed in your answer there, that first question, that first part of your story, which was It sounds like you do a lot of just like self-talk. Like, okay, we're gonna get through this. Like you're talking to yourself. Like you're saying to yourself, I'm going, okay, it's gonna be fine. I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna make this decision based on what treatment I'm gonna get, or I'm gonna open this clinic. I'm just gonna get through this. Like, do you notice yourself doing that? I mean, is that a conscious thing or a subconscious thing?
No,
The
I
way
don't
you're
know.
looking now, you're like, I'm guessing subconscious because you're sort of looking like, huh,
Yeah, I don't know. I just do it. It's a coping skill, you know. Like
sure.
when a doctor comes into the room and tells you something, right? Like I literally never hear the side effects. Apparently, I was told several times that the chemo I had at 27 could cause lung damage. I was like, yeah, whatever. Like, do I have a choice? No.
Right.
So who
Right.
cares? Whatever. I'm 27. I'm invincible. I'll
Right.
be
Right. Right.
fine.
Right. Right.
And so you don't hear it, but when I was 27, at that third treatment, I had an adverse reaction to bleomycin. I don't know if you ever read Lance Armstrong's book.
I did.
So they gave him bleomycin for testicular cancer, and they were very wary about it because one of the side effects could be lung fibrosis, pulmonary fibrosis. And they kept testing him, and obviously he was an elite athlete, a professional athlete, so that was a really big problem for him. He didn't get it, but I did. And so they pulled that out of my treatment the second, maybe the third cycle. And because of that, I think is the reason for a cancer that's 95% curable, I didn't have the efficacy treatment. So mine probably relapsed because of that, but I couldn't have it. And that did decrease my lung function from 100 to 70 at 27. But it's quite remarkable. Like everything in life, you can find workarounds, and the human body is extraordinary. Like the mind and the spirit, you find workarounds.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, so I'm not 100%. Who cares? I'm still, and I actually forgot that I had compromised lungs. I don't know, my coping skill, I clearly have a lot of denial in me. And I think that that works in many ways. And also with failures, like a lot of my business failures, after I hit them, I deny that they happened, but I learn from them because I don't do them again. You do learn from failure and bad choices,
Yeah.
but I don't harp on them. I just move on
Yeah.
hard, and I kind of put them in the rear view mirror. And okay, so I had that adverse reaction, moving on. And when you move on, you make choices at each point. I did choose to have a second treatment, which again was decreased efficacy because a stem cell transplant was the highest efficacy of treatment, but I wanted to have kids. So I took that risk, and I clearly am a risk taker. Not everybody would have taken that route.
Sure.
And I did get through chemo, and I did get the radiation. Then I did my triathlons. My practice grew. I met my husband. We got married very quickly. We got engaged. I found out I was 4 months pregnant. We had to move my wedding up. I didn't notice I was pregnant because I was so busy seeing 20 patients a day and training for a tri. I did like St. Anthony's. I was pregnant.
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah, I was like, who knows? Just like, busy. I was busy.
Well,
And
well,
that was it.
there's parallels that you're highlighting. So building a 7 location clinic in a city like New York is no small feat. I mean, there's literally a famous line that says, "If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere." That's just to the point where it's cliche now, right? What are the biggest leadership lessons that you had to learn along the way? You just talked about some of them, which I think the biggest teacher a lot of times is failure. So what were the big ones? Someone listening right now who's saying either this is something I'm doing or something I want to do. What were some of the biggest leadership lessons you had to learn that you'd share?
The first one, you can't do it alone. You really can't do it alone, especially in the way the industry has evolved. You need strategic partners. And I think building the right team, my first failure was not recognizing how to build the team and and not fleshing it out from A to B. I think I was like I do often. I do things too quickly, impulsively.
Ready,
And I've
fire,
learned
aim.
from it. Say that again?
Ready, fire, aim.
Really, maybe not even
Yeah.
aim, just fire. Skip the aim. But I've learned. I was 37 when I did that. Now I'm 52. So I've learned a lot. And I've structured it differently now. I
Good.
have equity partners in every location. And we've become a really tight knit leadership executive team. And I think that that was the biggest lesson for launching a larger sort of scale practice, to be able to scale. the other lesson I've learned is listening is so important,
Yeah.
and leading with integrity and intention. And COVID, I think, gave every leader a really big challenge. I didn't have the opportunity or the luxury of talking to people and other practices about what they were going to do, but I had a team of like 44 at the time. And I knew 2019 had been a very successful year. Like most practice in the city, we really had a good year. And when COVID hit, I had just come off the heels of taking my team to the Bahamas for a celebratory year because we did so well. The whole team and their partners and their kids, we went like 60, 70 people to the Bahamas, to the Atlantis. And then COVID came, and I knew that I had to take care of my team. And I knew right away, this is before PPP came out. This is before we knew we were going to have a lifeline. I would tip into my line of credit and take care of everybody, and we would figure it out as we go. And I think because we did that team building event, I had a lot of buy in from my team already. And when I didn't let anybody go, there was more buy in. And so we pivoted really strongly towards telehealth. We did treat post op patients in the office. We were part of that emergency services allowed to see in person. There were some therapists who did not feel comfortable doing that. I didn't push anybody to do it. And we covered everybody. And I think instinctively, taking care of my team is a good leadership lesson because I can't do it without my team, right? They've taken care of me. Now I have to take care of them. And it wasn't easy. Listen, it really wasn't. And I had to dip into like the line of credit and take an SBA loan. You know, your New York City rents did not give us a break at
Sure.
all,
Sure.
at all. And I had just opened an office in Wall Street like 2 months before. It was really challenging, but I really did learn and practice grit. And simultaneously, I was starting to show signs of pulmonary fibrosis. I was coughing, I was having shortness of breath, and I thought it was just anxiety. My husband had COVID early on. He had a really bad case. I went to my mom with my kids because I had to get away from him. Having had Hodgkin's a couple of times, I knew I didn't want to mess with it. And I just learned about myself how to respond, but taking care of my team paid in dividends. And now we all take care of each other. That's leadership. I think without that, you won't build a loyal team, a responsive team, a team that you have to allow to grow too.
Are there questions that you ask or things that you're looking for when you're going to add somebody? I mean, you sound pretty self-aware, so you know what you bring to the table. All the things that we've just talked about for the last 20 minutes, right? Like you're like, I know it sounds like you've always had a pretty good idea of who you were. How do you then figure out who the first person or the second person, or even now that you're at 7 locations, who the next person is? How do you do that math?
Okay, so I'm really going to be honest. I'm not a quantifiable person, so I don't
Good.
really
Me
look
either.
at you. Yeah, I can
But
sense
when I say math, what I mean is like
I
the
know
not math. Like, how do you do that? Who am I going to add? How does it
calculation.
fit?
I know this is such bad advice, but a lot of it is feeling. It's
Okay.
feeling. It's sort of like someone who has that natural grit, someone who really cares. And we were just on a staff meeting, a leadership meeting earlier, and we struggle with the younger generation because they don't have those same expectations of professional development. They want everything, they want mentorship handed to them, they want facts handed to them. And I went to a program that was problem based learning.
Where
And
was that? Where'd you go?
I went to Nova Southeastern in Fort Lauderdale, in
Oh,
Florida,
nice.
Davie. And my year, it was a problem based learning program. They
Same.
gave us case study. You did? You had that?
PBL. Yeah. Yeah. In Marymount, in Arlington. Yep. Same.
Wow. It doesn't really exist anymore. I don't know how it is in Marymount, but for me and my personality, it was the best fit. It allowed me to develop my own critical thinking, the way I learn. I'm not a didactic learner. I'm not a math person. Yeah, I know you kind of, yeah, I can sense that. I'm just like, let me figure it out.
Listen,
And
jump in. We'll figure. How are you going to swim? I don't know. Jump in the deep end. Let's go.
exactly. I mean, again, similar to like tries, I got in that pool and I couldn't swim 5 strokes. I was like, how am I going to do a triathlon? And like you learn slow and steady and never give up. Follow the people at the feet in front of you. And that's very much what I've done. And I think that's part of it, right?
How about people right now? How about physical therapists, or we'll just say healthcare providers in general, who are like, okay, like a business is something I keep seeing it, but you can't go on LinkedIn for more than 10 minutes. You can't go to a conference without hearing all the cool different ways people are actually able to do this. I don't know that it existed 25 years ago, right? There was
No,
just a couple different ways. And now there's the
sure.
pathways, and now that can be overwhelming. So if you were mentoring, and I don't know if this is a good question to ask or a bad question to ask, but if you were going to mentor the 27-year-old version of yourself, but now set yourself at 27 in 2025, who are
Okay.
struggling right now, what would you tell her? What
First of all,
advice would
they
you give
do
her?
have so much input coming at them.
It's a
I,
lot.
I, I think you have to pick your lane first, become an
Okay.
expert in something, one thing, and then expand. So I was an expert in manual care, and I was like sort of very focused on energy. I took all the courses at IPA. I took all the courses at Michigan State. And then from there, I felt my confidence build. And then I got people on my team that did different things. So now we are expanding into telehealth. We're expanding, obviously, pelvic floor and and performance training. But I'm not doing that. My expert partners are, So I think you have to pick your lane, and from there, develop your leadership skills, develop your strategy. If you want to do a cash-based business, that's great. If you want to scale and be large and have an exit strategy, you obviously have to find an in-network path because you can't scale unless you're in network. And other companies in New York have found ways to scale in network by negotiating or figuring out ways to get in network, different paths of doing that. And I think that that's very hard as a single practitioner.
Sure.
Um, but that's going to be integral into the kind of growth you want. So if you want to do a cash-based business, great. But that's not a very scalable business, right? You can't go nationwide with a cash-based business. Telehealth is a whole nother ball game. You want to go into the tech portion of PT. That's not my thing, but that's an avenue. You have to pick a lane, develop your lane. I can see how it's like all over the place for some people, but like you found your niche. You're a communicator, right?
Right.
So you developed this, and your focus is on PTs, which has a lot to offer in real life anyway. Every practice is a business, and you have lines of service
Right.
and different specialties. I think you have to find your talent. Scott Galloway talks about this a lot. Don't follow your passion, follow your talent,
Right.
and then do your passion once you make money, you know?
It's easier to get through. Seth Godin calls it the dip. Like, I don't care what you're doing. Because when people found out I used to run radio stations, like, coolest job ever. And it was. There was a job, though, and there were some sucky parts. But if I didn't love the rest of it, getting through that sucky part, he calls it the dip, gets a lot easier when the rest of the dip, the opposite of the dip, is something you like to do. And you're able to say to yourself, similarly to that you did repeatedly during this episode, I'll just figure it out. I'll get through it. So I recognize that this is a moment and this sucks, but it's not going to suck forever.
It's kind of like, I'm sorry to use this analogy again, climbing the hill sucks.
It
I
sucks.
hate climbing. But once I get to the top, I like get into that third position and I go like 27, 30, 31 miles an hour. I just duck and tighten in and I'm like flying. And I was riding one time with an orthopedist who was freaking out. He flew by me on the uphill and I flew by him on the downhill. He was like, Cynthia! He was like, what if I break my hands? I'm like, you'll be fine.
Whether you're a solo PT or running multiple clinics, Empower EMR grows with you. It's flexible, cloud-based, and actually easy to use. See it in action at empoweremr.com. Although Lance Armstrong did say in his book, he used to race like that. He used to be fearless on the downhill. And he said he got advice or figured this advice out. And his line was, you're not going to lose. You're not going to win a race of a downhill, but you sure could lose one. But
Good
that's
advice.
where he doubled down. That's why he became one of the best climbers ever. Right. I mean, I guess the cheating probably helped a little bit, but like he still had to do it. Right. That guy broke my heart. Lance Armstrong broke my heart.
I know.
But he still had to do it. Right. So I think the lessons that he shared still resonated with. Same thing. I was learning how to like really ride, and I was living in Pennsylvania, and I was in the Poconos. There were some hills there.
Yeah.
And a guy that was a couple years older than me who had done races before me would watch me, young me, be like, watch this. I'm going to fly up the uphill. And he would just drop a gear and he would catch up to me at the top, and I'm panting and I'm out of gas. And he's like, hey, you beat me by about 30 seconds there. And I go, yeah. And he goes, but you're wasted. And I'm like, but I still want. He goes, but this isn't the end. And I was like, yeah, I got lesson taught. I got it. Like, understand what the purpose of this segment of your life or this race is actually supposed to do.
And that can be a parallel to starting a practice. You don't want to burn out in the beginning and then fail because you go hard on one and investing. I I mean, I hear of stories where people take lines of credit out to start a new practice, then open quickly a second and third, and then you have so much debt on your books. I've never built a practice like that. I've always started small and grew organically. I don't have any debt on my books, and I think that that's an important lesson too. I mean, I know obviously businesses can have debt depending on how much you're making and what your next move is going to be. And as I continue to scale, I think about those things differently now. Um, but I think that that's a big burden. And I think even though money can be cheap, you have to really be careful how you leverage your business,
Yeah.
especially as you start. You know,
So
we're
so
lucky.
talk about this process of writing a book. There's got to be a reason you're doing it. Like, it's not. I get really. I'm sort of proud of myself when I read a book. So I've, never mind write a book. So why decide to do it? And you said you're halfway done. How's the process?
The process has been very therapeutic.
Good.
I
Okay, good.
I tend to not focus on things when I'm going through them because I kind of run through them. And I am 2 years post a double lung transplant, and we talked about a little bit. I also, after I had my son, I relapsed a third time and had a stem cell transplant when I was 35, and that I don't think I processed a lot because I was so busy living. I didn't want to waste time. It's giving me a chance to sort of recognize my patterns and my choices that have all been very similar to get through things, the positivity that's woven through every single day of my life, no matter, you make me cry. Like, no matter how challenging it is, I never hear the bad. I just keep moving forward. Even at your worst, how lucky am I that I got a diagnosis that there was a cure for? How lucky am I? Okay, I went through Hodgkin's, which is the most curable cancer, the best cancer to get, they kept telling me. How lucky was I to get that? And even though I had it 3 times, how lucky was I to have dividends from that risk I took not doing the stem cell transplant the second time? I had my son, who's a carbon copy of me, for better or worse. And how lucky am I that I got new lungs, even though the chemo killed my lungs? How lucky am I that I got new ones and now it's like nothing ever happened?
Wow.
Back to like the grinds, back to like complaining about my kids being a pain in the neck, having 2 teenagers in the house. How lucky am I to go through this process of applying to college with my 17-year-old? Life could have been very different. And similar to other choices I made, when I needed new lungs, New York is a very challenging place to get new organs. And I couldn't get new organs in New York. And I could have waited longer and longer, but Columbia kept like the pattern, at least then 2 years ago, the way they did their process, patients had to be so sick. I was already on 7 liters of oxygen, carrying a tank around. And when you have fibrotic lungs, mine were very cement like. It was so exhausting with every breath. It was physically trying to and I was thinking about every cycle pedal, every run up a hill, like expand the lungs. So I made a choice to go look for lungs anywhere I could get them. And I went down to Duke and I got lungs in 2 weeks.
Wow.
And I left my kids home with my mom and friends. And my husband and I went down to Duke for 3 months, 4 months, got lungs, came back and like living life. So like making choices, even though they might be hard, you just got to do them. It might be hard, but do what you got to do and move on. Don't harp on it. Don't debate. I couldn't have a second kid naturally, so I had an egg donor. No big deal. Have an egg donor, move on. Have a kid, move on. Just, I don't know. I don't focus on the negative. I just like, okay, that's the issue. Let's fix it. What's the problem? Solve the problem. Move on. Also, with any problem in business, you have problems. This therapist isn't working. Why? Can you fix it? Can you work on it? Can you mentor them? If not, move on. Let them go. That saying of hire slowly, fire quickly is
Mhm.
right. So all of the things that have helped me in my life are the same that have helped me through business.
I got a strategy for your book release.
Oh yeah?
This is free. This is free.
Okay.
I think what's the expected date of the book release, and what's the title? Do you have the title yet?
Moxie, and then like a sub release, but Moxie.
Okay. And when is this?
I think I should be finished with the chapters probably in like 3 months. I'm about like 2 months, probably by the middle of summer, and then probably a launch date a year from then.
Okay.
I'm working with a writing coach, and she's a very successful writer. So she's been extraordinary helping me strategize. And
So here's what you do every morning, in the week or two leading up, you just get on any platform and go live and just tell us pick one story, because no one's going to tell it better than you, and your voice and your way of doing it is, I mean, that's going to, there's some people who are going to go, I don't want, this isn't my story. Good. But the people that will be like, that's it, will be like, I need to hear more of this person. So I think you turn a camera on, don't worry about lighting, microphones, coaching. Today I'm good, and it might be 5 minutes, but it might be 55 minutes. That's it.
okay.
That's what, if I saw that, if I tripped across you doing this 3 times, I'd be like, I feel like I owe her to buy the book.
We're going to stay in touch.
Yeah, let's do that.
I think what's my why of doing this book? I think I can help people overcome very big challenges.
Sure.
Health wise, and whether it's infertility, cancer, obviously organ transplant, I think I can help them. And I think.
So you're only picking the small things really that you're going to help people with, right? Yeah. But those are huge things that could cripple anybody else. And I think a real story of hearing someone who's done it is really powerful.
It's so hard for me because I feel like it's no big deal. Like this has been my life. So when someone here, it's just been my life. And it does, I know when you say it like that, I realize maybe it's not really a lot of people, I guess, yeah. I don't know, it's kind of crazy. But yes, it's just been my everyday, right? It's just been my normal. And my normal has become somebody else's extraordinary, but it's just my normal. And if you can make like big things normal, it's easier to overcome.
Sure.
Yeah. Like don't think about it, such a big deal.
Yeah, the first time you ride 50 miles on a bike, it's, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Then you do 75, and now doing 50 is no big deal. I know, but you have to have the boldness. You have to say, what's 3 miles down the road? What's 3 miles down the road? And then the next thing you know, your needle doesn't stop there, and it goes further. But to hear someone else doing it first, that's the whole Roger Bannister thing, right? The 4-minute mile was impossible, and then he did it, and then 20, I don't forget the number, but 20 people did it within a year. It was impossible. This was physically impossible in the world. And then one dude did it, and then a bunch of people did it.
Do you remember I remember doing those long rides and coming home and passing out on my couch? And then all of a sudden, 65 miles was no big deal. I was riding the Bear Mountain on a Saturday from 65th and 1st. It became nothing. And now, holy crap, doing 2 loops around Central Park, I'd be wiped out.
So physical things are one. I'll give you an example of a story, and I forget where I heard this, but this is more psychological and nervous system. So you know those big suits that they put like police academy guys in, and they can get bit by this German Shepherd, but it won't hurt them. You get in the helmet and the suit. So somebody did a while ago, this is a long time ago, they put heart rate monitors on them. So they put this police academy recruit. He's probably 19 years old, right? He doesn't even have facial hair yet. They put him in the suit. They put heart rate monitors on him. They get the German Shepherd all riled up, and his heart rate goes up to 200, right? They let the dog loose, and his heart rate goes up to 200. They get the dog away. They take the dog out of the room. They calm the guy down. His heart rate goes back to normal. Okay. We're gonna do it again. And he's like, okay. They get the dog all riled up. Come on, Cujo, sick. The guy's, they sick him. He's got his jaws sunk into him. His heart rate goes back up. It spikes. It goes through the roof again. And then they pull the dog away. But his heart rate only went to 185.
You acclimate.
And then he did it again, and it went up, and it was 175. And this is why people are able to climb towers and fix antennas. I'm sure the first time they did it, or anything. Like, I'm sure your 7th clinic wasn't easier to do. In fact, it was probably harder because there was a more crowded market. It was later on. It was, right? This never gets easier. But your heart rate wasn't spiking because you're like, I've seen this before. That's the thing. The guy is like, I've seen the German Shepherd. It's not going to hurt me. I know it's scary. I'm supposed to react, but I'm just not going to.
But that's exactly why it's like, it's not really that big a deal. You just get through it.
Now?
Yeah. So, when you're getting lungs or organs, they call you and they have to, while they're harvesting the organs, they prep you. But the organs aren't always good but you have to get prepped in case they are
Oh,
good.
anyway. Okay.
So you go in, you're pre-op. Like, I mean, I have some funny stories. I'm not, but maybe the next podcast.
There's your live stream to promote your book. That's where those funny stories come out.
I mean, they're funny, but you have to go in pre-op, and then you have to wait like 4, 5, 6 hours, and then
Wow.
they send you home. And the first time, and I wrote on my blog, and all my people are reading the blog with me. And it's like I got to wait another hour. These lungs, they're not good. Come back like 2 days later, another donor. These lungs, they might be good, but we have to test them more. We have to test them more. We have to put them in a bubble and see if they effuse. And they sent me home again, and it was those kinds of, it was crazy. But yeah, the third time I went in, I was like to my
Mm,
husband, Mayor, you think this is going to be it? And we got there, like, we didn't rush. The
yeah.
nurse called us. They're like, where are you? We're like, oh, we're like 5 minutes away.
Yeah, we're on the way.
We didn't run. We didn't rush. It was slow. And yes, to your point, I didn't respond like this again. I was very calm.
That's where that been there, done that, right? So that's why I think with your approach, which is I'm just going to run in. I don't know, I'll figure it out. You get through the times when you would have spiked, when your heart rate would have spiked. It's like, how do you get good at something? You have to suck, and then
Yeah.
you do it again, and you suck less, and you don't wait. Just do it again. I mean, the first time I was ever live on the radio, I went, as soon as I turned the microphone off, I went and threw up because I was so nervous because I cared. I've waited so many years to do it. But then I knew I wasn't going to wait a half hour. I got like, do it again, do it again, do it again. So it's like suck as fast as possible, and then suck less.
It's totally, I mean, that's what I think about when I think about young kids in PT school, and all of them are watching Instagram and all the options I see, like how to make cash, how to make your business, it's a lot of information, but I
Right.
think you have to stop getting distracted by the noise and do what you have to do.
Honestly, yeah, they're watching the highlight reel, as they call it, which is, and then you feel, because I'm guilty of this too, you feel so far behind because you're watching the end result of what probably was a bunch of failures, but they're not showing you the failures. They're only showing you the 78th time they've tried something. And then you feel, well, I need to be perfect on my first shot because look at this great highlight reel that I've just seen online.
Yeah, it's different. It's unrealistic expectations.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know what I was doing to start. I literally did not know, but I just slow and steady learned, and I didn't have any debt, so the risk was low. It was just me, you
Right.
know. I was single, 29, just slow and steady. I think that that's important. You don't start huge.
You
You
don't.
start one patient at a time, or whatever you're going to do, one deal at a time. I mean, there are so many options now for these young therapists, and I
Yeah.
wish them the best of luck. How lucky are we to be in a profession that offers so many options? Even at PPS this year, I went to one of the modules, and he was probably a little older than me. And he said, when I was in PT school, this was never even an option. Like you mentioned, 25 years ago, there weren't options of even selling a practice. It wasn't a thing. There weren't, no PTs would die and leave their practice or stop working, and that was it.
All
You
right.
made a living and you retired. Now it's different. You can
Yeah.
leave a legacy,
Yeah.
a true legacy. So I think for the young people coming out of school, give it some thought what you want to do, what you want your contribution to be. For me, it really is interpersonal relationships,
Yeah.
whether it's my patients, my team, my community. That was for me. It was never, I never had an intention of building a big business. And that just sort of organically happened through each interaction and my experiences. I mean, it was lemonade out of lemons. All the doctors I met across the way sent me patients, whether it was, it's like
You're really going above and beyond to get that referral, Cynthia. That's a lot. Yeah.
going to see doctors with no hair and no eyebrows. They were like, wait, you're working? I'm like, yeah.
Come on over. All right, we're gonna play a game, Cynthia. I didn't prep you for this, but you don't seem like you need to be prepped a lot. We're gonna play this game. Are you ready to play a game?
Ready.
All right, we're gonna play a quick game called Grit or Growth. I'll throw out a situation, and you tell us, did it require more grit or more growth, or a little bit of both? There's gonna be some in there, but which one was more? And we'll do it rapid fire style. When you answer, you can give it like a sentence or an explanation. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Yeah.
All right, grit or growth, opening your very first clinic. Is that
Great.
more? Yeah, had to be, right? Grit or growth, opening your third clinic.
Growth.
And then grit or growth, the seventh clinic now.
Grit and growth.
There. Oh, okay. It's gone back. Why now the mix in 7? I figured that would be just growth.
Because you've learned from challenges, so you have to like really power through those challenges and focus, really hyper focus on growth. So
Okay.
but you need that grit to get through, whether it's building the right partner, finding the right space, negotiating. So you have to use all the grit you have to make sure your negotiations go better, so it's
Hmm.
it's it's got to be both.
Okay.
I mean, I'm
Undergoing.
thinking about that right now. From you, I'm going to look at new spaces to
Yeah.
open another office. And it's like taking all of my backpack of things I've learned to go see
Applying it.
these spaces.
How about undergoing a lung transplant? Grit or growth?
Both.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's both because you're walking through fire, walking, crawling, literally with 7, 8 liters of oxygen.
Sure.
It's a lot of grit to get to the growth.
Well said. Last one. Learning to lead a team. More grit or more.
That's growth. You have to be patient with yourself and kind with yourself, maintain a growth mindset, hear and listen with empathy, and lose your ego.
Ooh, I
No
like that.
ego.
Yeah, I like that. All right, last thing we do on the show, Cynthia, is called the parting shot. It's your last chance for a mic drop moment or a soapbox statement. What would you want to leave with the audience? It could be an idea, a concept, a quote, whatever. What would you want to leave with the audience as we wrap up?
Focus on the positive. Stay focused on the positive.
Love it. All right, where can people go to find you right now? Because people are going to be DMing me, like, how do I find this woman? And I'm just going to want to send them to you. Where do you want people to go?
At Cynthia Gormazano on Instagram or synergypt.com. You can email me there.
Perfect. All right, Cynthia, I expect a big splash for the book release when it comes out. Thanks for the time. I appreciate it.
Jimmy, thank you. You're really fun to talk to.
Like what you heard? Great. Subscribe to the show on Apple or Spotify. You can watch the episodes on YouTube. Or don't. I'm not your boss. You want to specialize in ortho, neuro, or sports physical therapy and actually get paid while doing it? Brooks IHL offers accredited residencies and fellowships with full salary, full benefits, and real mentorship from clinical experts. Learn more and apply at brooksihl.org. There aren't nearly enough podcasts in this world. Said no one. Why not launch one more? If you thought about launching a show but don't quite know how, we can help you do all that back-end stuff. Email me at jimmy@ptpintcast.com and we can add one more podcast no one else will listen to the pile.